rising right now, and it is super warm. I slept on the floor because it's really good for my back and it helps me to feel very energized and good in the morning. So I'm going to read you some pages from Grimm's fairy tales while you watch the sun rise. It's very nice to not be in front of the camera for once, but I hope this will relax you, and I will pick the fairy tales intuitively. We'll see how many I do. I hope you enjoy this. I found this book in a charity shop. It is pretty old. It doesn't even say when it got printed. Okay. Oh, and by the way, it's a Sunday today. And that's why it's so beautifully quiet. Okay. This is one you might know already. The Golden Goose. There was a man who had 3 sons. The youngest was called ℒℴ𝓋ℇ and was on all occasions despised and ill-treated by the whole family. It happened that the eldest took it into his head one day to go into the wood to cut fuel, and his mother gave him a delicious pasty and a bottle of wine to take with him, that he might refresh himself at his work. As he went into the wood, a little old man bid him goodbye and said, "Give me a little piece of meat from your plate and a little wine out of your bottle. I am very hungry and thirsty." But this clever young man said, "Give you my meat and wine? No, I thank you. I should not have enough left for myself." And away he went. He soon began to cut down a tree, but he had not worked long before he missed his stroke and cut himself, and was obliged to go home to have the wound dressed. Now it was the little old man that caused him this mischief. Next went out the second son to work, and his mother gave him too a pasty and a bottle of wine. And the same little old man met him also for something to eat and drink. But he too thought himself vastly clever and said, "Whatever you got, I shall lose, so go your way." The little man took care that he should have his reward, and the second stroke that he aimed against the tree hit him on the leg, so that he too was forced to go home, to go home, to go home. Then Tumbling said, "Father, I should like to go and cut wood too." But his father answered, "Your brothers have both lamed themselves. You had better stay at home, for you know nothing of the business." But Tumbling was very pressing, and at last his father said, "Go your way. You will be wiser when you have suffered for your folly, for your folly." And his mother gave him only some dry bread and a bottle of sour beer. But when he went into the wood, he met the little old man, who said, "Give me some meat and drink, for I am very hungry and thirsty." Tumbling said, "I have only dry bread and sour beer. If that will suit you, we will sit down and eat together." So they sat down, and when the lad pulled out his bread, behold, it was turned into a capital pasty, and his sour beer became delightful wine. They ate and drank heartily, and when they had done, the little man said, "As you have a kind heart, and have been willing to share everything with me, I will send a blessing upon you. There stands an old tree. Cut it down, cut it down, and you will find something at the root." Then he took his leave and went his way. Tumbling set to work and cut down the tree, and when it fell, he found in a hollow under the roots a goose with feathers of pure gold. He took it up and went on to an inn, where he proposed to sleep for the night. The landlord had 3 daughters, and when they saw the goose, they were very curious and examined what this wonderful bird could do, and wished very much to pluck one of the feathers out of its tail. At last, the eldest said, "I must and will have a feather." So she waited till his back was turned, and then seized the goose by the wing. But to her great surprise, there she stuck, for neither hand nor finger could get away again. Presently it came the second sister, and thought to have a feather too, but the moment she touched her sister, there she too hung fast. At last came the third, and wanted a feather, but the other 2 cried out, "Keep away! For heaven's sake, keep away!" However, she did not understand what they meant. "If they are there," thought she, "I may as well be there too." So she went up to them, but the moment she touched her sisters, she stuck fast and hung to the goose as they did. And so they kept company with the goose all night. The next morning, ℒℴ𝓋𝓇 carried off the goose under his arm and took no notice of the 3 girls, but went out with them sticking fast behind. And wherever he travelled, they too were obliged to follow, whether they could or no, as fast as their legs would carry them. In the middle of a field, the parson met them. And when he saw the train, he said, "Are you not ashamed of yourselves, you bold girls, to run after the young man in that way over the fields?" Is that proper behavior? Then he took the youngest by the hand to lead her away, but the moment he touched her, he, too, hung fast and followed in the train. Presently up came the clerk, and when he saw his master, the parson, running after the 3 girls, he wondered greatly and said, "Hollo, hollo, your reverence, whither so fast? There is a christening today." Then he ran up and took him by the gown, and in a moment he was fast too. As the 5 went this threading along, one behind the other, they met 2 labourers with their mattocks coming from work, and the parson cried out to them to set him free. But scarcely had they touched him when they too fell into the ranks, and so made 7 all running after ℒℴ𝓋𝓇 and his goose. At the last they arrived at a city where reigned a king who had an only daughter. The princess was so thoughtful and serious a turn of mind that no one could make her laugh. And the king had proclaimed to all the world that whoever could make her laugh should have her for this wife. When the young man heard this, he went to her with the goose and all its train, and as soon as she saw all the 7 hanging together and running about, treading on each other's heels, she could not help bursting into a long and loud laugh. Then ℒℴ𝓋𝓇 claimed her for his wife. The wedding was celebrated, and he was heir to the kingdom, and lived long and happy with his wife. And that is the story of the golden goose. Oh my, look at that sky. It is so beautiful. And the sun is shining the light right across my room, and a beam of sunlight is hitting the other wall. It's the small things. It's really worth it to stand up that early. Okay, one more. Maybe a shorter one. What do we have? Oh, that's good. That's not too long. No. Okay. The 3 tongues. I hope you can understand me. In Switzerland, there lived an old count who had only one son who was quite stupid, again, and never learned anything. One day, the father said, "My son, listen to what I have to say. Do all I may, I can knock nothing into your head. Now you shall go your way, and an eminent master shall try his hand with you." So the youth was sent to a foreign city and remained a whole year with his master. And at the end of that time, he returned home. His father asked him at once what he had learned. Where was I? Oh yeah, his father asked him at once what he had learned, and he replied, "My father, I have learned what the dogs bark." "Mercy on us!" exclaimed the father. "Is this all you have learned? I will send you to some other city, to another master." So the youth went away a second time, and after he had remained a year with his master, came home again. His father asked him, as before, what he had learned, and he replied, "I have learned what the birds sing." Can you listen? Or can you hear? Can you hear the birds? This answer put the father in a great rage, and he said, "Oh, you prodigal! Has all this precious time passed, and have you learned nothing? Are you not ashamed to come into my presence? Once more I will send you to a 3rd master, but if you learn nothing this time, I will no more be a father to you." With this 3rd master, the boy remained as before a 12th month, and when he returned to his father, he told him that he had learned the language that the frogs croak. At this, the father became furious, and calling his people together, said, "This youth is no longer my son. I cast him off and command that you lead him into the forest and take away his life." The servants led him away into the forest, but they had not the heart to kill him, and so they let him go. They cut out, however, the eyes and the tongue of a fawn, and took them for a token to the count. The young man wandered along, and after some time came to a castle where he asked for a night's lodging. The lord of the castle said, must be thrown to them whom they devour. Now, on account of these dogs, the whole country round was in terror and sorrow, for no one could prevent their ravages. But the youth, being afraid of nothing, said, "Only let me into these barking hounds and give me something to throw to them. They will not harm me." Since he himself wished it, they gave him some meat for the wild hounds and led him into the tower. As soon as he entered, the dogs ran about him in quite a friendly way, wagging their tails and never once barking. They ate also the meat he brought and did not attempt to do him the least harm. The next morning, to the astonishment of everyone, he came forth uninjured and told the lord of the castle, "The hounds have informed me, in their language, why they this waste and bring destruction upon the land. They have the guardianship of a large treasure beneath the tower, and till that is raised, they have no rest. In what way and manner this is to be done, I have also understood from them." Oh, it is so beautiful. Okay, at these words, everyone was glad, and the Lord promised him his daughter in marriage if he could raise the treasure. This task he happily accomplished, and the wild hounds thereupon disappeared, and the country was freed from the plague. Then the beautiful maiden was married to him, and they lived happily together. After some time, he one day got into a carriage with his wife and set out on the road to Rome. On their way thither, they passed a swamp where they sat. He became quite thoughtful. No, sorry. No, it was right. And when he heard, no, wait, now I'm lost. On their way thither, they passed a swamp where the frogs sat croaking. There we are. The young count listened, and when he heard what they said, he became quite thoughtful and sad, but he did not tell his wife why. At last they arrived at Rome and found the archbishop was just dead, and there was a great contention among the cardinals as to whom should be his successor. They at length resolved that he on whom some miracles sign should be shown should be elected. Just as they this resolved, at the same moment the young count stepped into the church, and suddenly 2 snow-white doves flew down, one on each of his shoulders, and remained perched there. The clergy recognized in these circumstance the sign they required, and asked him on the spot whether he would be archbishop. The young count was undecided, and knew not whether he were worthy, but the doves whispered to him that he might take the honor, and so he consented. Then he was anointed and consecrated, and so was fulfilled what the frogs had prophesied, and which had so disturbed him that he should become the archbishop sketchy pop. Upon his selection, he had to sign a mass of which he knew nothing, but the two doves sitting upon his shoulder told him all he required to know. And that is a nice moral, which basically says there are different kinds of intelligence, and sometimes speaking to the animals can save your life. I'm gonna go speak to my cats now, and I hope you feel very well and have a beautiful day or night, and I'm gonna enjoy the sunrise. I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love to play with shadow and light.